So now my carrots and potato is thinly chopped. So now I'm trying to chop the onions, and and you just make sure the onions are also thinly chopped. You don't want to eat onions in your meat pies. You want it to be invisible, so by the time you saute it or fry it, they will all disappear. So this is the main reason of chopping it so very thin. So I'm going to be showing you the method how I make the filling of the meat pie. When you follow this method, you're going to achieve a very delicious filling, and it's going to take you back to you're eating all those. You're just going to take you back to when you're in Nigeria. So when you know this method, and you're good to go. So now our part is ready. I'm going to add in a little bit of oil. We do not need so much oil because the grounded beef we're going to use has a lot of fat, and has a lot of oil in it already. So what we just require is mind you, my pot, the stove is on low heat, so, and the pot is hot already. So we just requires us to use a little bit of oil, because the meat we are using has oil in it already. And today we are making 40 pieces of pie, and it's for a client, and I'm going to be showing you the step by step to achieve the flaky and moist texture for the dough, and also to achieve that filling, the filling that has a good taste. It's going to take you back home like you're eating all these tantalizers, food co Mr. Big's kind of meat pie. So I promise you that when you follow these steps I'm taking, you're going to get a perfect meat pie. So now the oil is hot, mind you. The oil, my stove is on low heat. So now we're going to add in the chopped onions first. So here, and while you're sauteing the onions, I add in my thyme. There's this space it gives. I do not have the time when I pour in my beef. There's this space it gives me frying the onions and this thyme together. It gives it that Nigerian taste I told you about. So you saute the onions and thyme together. I also add in my black pepper. This is black pepper. It just it enhances the thyme flavor, just a little bit of kicking. Mind you, do not add too much oil when you're making your meat pie filling, because the grounded beef has oil in it already. So now I'm sauteing the onions with thyme and black pepper. Yeah, look at the color. So at this time you need to reduce the heat to low heat, totally. You don't want your onions to burn. The meat pie, so you need to scatter it. Then after you do that, you add in a little bit of curry, just a little. I had ginger paste. So after stirring, this is what it looks like. Now I'll be adding a little bit of water, to allow the beef to cook well. Yeah. And you cover, allow it simmer for 5 minutes. Then after that, we add in her potato and carrots. You know. So now the beef is cooked, and so now I've added in the carrots and the potato. So now again we allow this to cook for 2 minutes. We don't want the carrot to be too cooked, but the reason for this 2 to 3 minutes is to allow the potato to cook, because I do not want it to cook for that long, because we're still going to add in the filling into the dough, the meat pie dough, and put it in the oven. While it's in the oven, it's also cooking. At the same time it is baking, at the same time it's cooking also. So I do not want it to be too soggy and to be too soft, and that is why I'm giving it 2 to 3 minutes to allow the mixture of this carrot and potato to cook in this grounded beef. So now I'm going to add in a little bit of water again, just a little bit. So do not forget we are making 40 pieces, and we use them 4 pounds of beef. So that's it. So we cover and let it cook for another 3 minutes. Thank you. So after it has cooked, the last thing we'll be adding is a mixture of flour and water, like a puree. We pour it inside. It allows the beef to be moist, and it gives it that that feeling of you're having this Nigerian meat pie. Yes, that's the last thing we're going to add, and allow it to. Now I break in 3 eggs. Now what I did is I separated the yolk. The yolk is separate, and this is the egg white. And the reason is I use this egg white. I brush the egg white in the dough before I put in the filling, the grounded beef filling. And this egg yolk, I use it to brush the outer part. When I put in the filling, and I cover it, I use the egg white to brush it. Basically, it gives it this color and golden crust, and not so golden, but it allows. So now it's well cooked, and the last thing we had I told you about is the mixture of all-purpose flour and water. We'll put it inside. So now we're making the dough now, and what is in here is 3.2 pounds of all-purpose flour, and this is 2 packs of salted butter. As it is salted, I won't be adding any more salt. Then I'll be adding like 1.5 spoon of this baking powder and teaspoon of the baking powder. Then remember, this butter needs to come straight out of the fridge. It has to be cold. That is the essence of this meat pie. And after we mix all this together, I'm going to be showing you how to mix it, and the consistency and the texture of what we need. And after that, we need to take it back to the fridge and allow it settle down for 10 to 15 minutes. Then we'll bring it out, roll it, then start putting in our filling, then make our meat pie. So the reason why I'm breaking it is because to allow for easy mixing. I don't just want to put it inside like that. So I have my daughter here with me. They are our strength, and that is why we're celebrating Mother's Day. We are strong. So I will be the second part. So making your meat pie dough requires you to use a lot of butter. Requires you to use a lot of butter for that flaky. Comes out flaky, soft. Yeah. So the baking powder is already measured here, so pour it in. Then now is the time to make use of your two hands. You try to break in the butter. Requires a lot of patience. So now, after I was done with the mixing of the butter and the all-purpose flour, I added in a little bit of water, to achieve this texture. So now our dough has cooled down, so now to start rolling and putting the filling, then we bake. So when I'm halfway into the pan I'm using, I'm going to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. I like to preheat the oven to get ready for the baking of our meat pie. Then we're going to be baking for 30 minutes after we put the meat pie in the oven. So we're going to bake for 30 minutes. So now we're going to section this. Then you need to section. We can't roll all this at once, so we need to start cutting it out, putting it to roll. So let's get started. So I'm adding flour to this rolling tray, so the dough will not stick to the tray. I'm also going to be adding to this rolling pin, for smooth rolling. I've got this one first. Add a little bit of flour to heat, then I roll it out. So when you're rolling, do not allow it to be too thick. It shouldn't be too thin and it shouldn't be too thick. So we want a perfect dough. Roll it out. Because of this little space, and I do not have, so we're managing what we have at the moment. Try to roll it out as much as possible. So I'm going to be using the cover of my jug to get the shape I want out, the circular shape. And this is what it looks like. I put this aside. We're still going to be using it, but I want to show you the shape. So now, before I add in the beef filling, I'm going to brush the inside with the egg white I told you about. There's no yolk inside because I separated the egg whites from the yolk, and the reason is because I want to use the yolk, the egg yolk, to brush the outside when I'm done putting in the filling. But I'm gonna use the egg white, brush the egg white in here before I add the dough. So now we're putting the filling. We cover. Now, there's this method, people use like using the tip of the fork, to press it down. But I am not using that method. Instead, I'm using the handle to press it down this way. So now, this is what it looks like. So this is what I'm talking about. The first batch is ready to go into the oven, and I egg wash it with the yolk, and that's why it's this color. And when it's done baking, you see what I'm talking about. It gives it that golden crust, and makes it flaky. Yes. So now I'm going to use a fork to to pierce it this way.